What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the new CA-87 Jawa Scatter Blaster that was added in the most recent update and whether or not I think it is the best shotgun right now in Fortnite Zero Build. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below which shotgun is your favorite in the current Star Wars season. And as I said, this video is going to be about Zero Build. Some of these things will translate to build mode. But with the nature of like how fights play out differently between the two game modes, I think this weapon is going to be even higher rated in build mode because of Zero Build. Or sorry, higher rated in build mode than Zero Build because of how build fights play out. But in incredibly simple terms, this is a shotgun with an incredibly high base damage, but the trade-off is that it has only one shot before overheating, meaning that if you don't hit that one shot with enough pellets to do like good damage, you are at a huge disadvantage and you're probably going to lose the fight because of it. And this is where the key difference between builds and Zero Builds is because builds, you could just build away, reset the edit. And the fact that you didn't get the greatest shot isn't as detrimental and just like going to auto lose you the fight. It is very high. It's high risk, very high reward, with the base damage, I think, being the most we've ever seen for a shotgun in Fortnite. And the headshot multiplier is actually one of the lowest we've ever seen for a shotgun in Fortnite at 1.25. But with that and the incredible base damage, it kind of means that like going for headshots isn't as important as it is with other shotguns. If you had like mid damage but a very high headshot multiplier, then going for the headshot would be like essential. But in this case, you have incredible just base damage and a very low headshot multiplier, and when going for headshots, it's a bit harder to aim. And you're also more likely to miss pellets, and because of those missed pellets, you might end up doing less damage with a headshot with this weapon than you would if you just went for a body shot and, you know, maximized as many pellets as possible. So I think for most players, just aiming center mass at your opponent's torso and just trying to get as many pellets on target as you can is going to be ideal. Like the common version of this weapon, for example, will deal 146 body damage if you hit every pellet, and its max headshot damage is 170. So you get 24 extra damage if you hit a max damage headshot with this weapon, which is nice, but as I touched on, you're getting some potential damage loss going for the headshot because you're more likely to miss more pellets. That 24 gain really isn't that great. The legendary has a body damage of 179. So you can hit a body shot with the legendary version of this weapon and get basically 180 damage. The max headshot of the legendary is 190. So again, it's only like 20 bonus damage for hitting the headshot. And it's like easier to just take the guaranteed 180 in that case, or the basically guaranteed 150 with the common. And every rarity kind of has this disparity where like the base damage is so high and then the headshot is just not that great. So I would just recommend going for body shots with this weapon 90% of the time. I've seen a lot of players compare this to the Ranger shotgun because the Ranger shotgun was also one that had only one shot and then you had to reload. But that's basically the only different, or that's like the only similarity they share. They're actually incredibly different weapons, and the playstyle for either of these weapons will be like polar opposites. Like the Ranger shotgun had a really tight pellet spread, an incredible range, and a fast reload. So a lot of people would just kind of like play cover with it, shoot out a shotgun shot, reload quickly, shoot out another shotgun shot. And because of that range, you could just play those chip damage and win the fight over time, or like, you know, get your advantage in the fight and then press that. The Jawa shotgun doesn't really have that great of range, and it also has a rather large pellet spread, meaning this playstyle just fundamentally doesn't work. The further you are away from the target, the more likely it is you miss pellets. You're going to get less damage because of that, and you're also going to get less damage because of the range being not that great, meaning you're going to need to be getting in the opponent's face most of the time with this. And because you need to be closer and more like all in with this than the Ranger shotgun, a lot of times you're just going to shoot your shot with this and then swap to some sort of spray to probably finish the fight, because the overheat time on this weapon is 2.2 seconds. You have 2.2 seconds between shots with the shotgun. And I tested it with the medallion, which makes weapons cool down faster, and it didn't really feel that different. So it's not like that makes a massive difference. Either way, you need to be incredibly close, and the cooldown time is long, meaning you're probably going to get one shot off this and then need to swap to the spray for the rest of the fight. And this adds to the high risk nature of the weapon because you don't have as many ways to reset the fight, and you're in more like danger. You're more in like imminent danger using this than you were with the Ranger shotgun. Fortunately, as I touched on, you only need to go for body shots, so even if you don't have the greatest aim, you should still be able to get good damage. And I would kind of recommend trying to be a little patient with this weapon. I know when you're in those, like, you know, incredibly close fights with the opponent, it feels like you need to rush your shot. But if you need to take a 1/10 of a second longer and make sure you hit your shot with this shotgun, it matters more with this than any other shotgun we've ever had in the game, I think. Just that little bit of time to get the good shotgun shot is going to be like make or break for your fight, because as I touched on, it's going to be 2 seconds until your shotgun is usable again. And if you get 40 damage with this and then have to swap to a spray for the rest of the fight, the enemy just using an auto shotgun or the ACP and swapping properly is going to get several shots off before your shotgun is usable again, and you're probably going to lose that fight. And with this shotgun, I do feel more inclined to use a dedicated spray weapon than when I use the ACP shotgun, and that's kind of my main knock against it, is that I don't really want to use a dedicated spray weapon. At this point in the season, I've enjoyed most using just the ACP shotgun and the A280 rifle, and then double mobility and heals. And with this shotgun, as I touched on, I feel more inclined to have like an F11, the CR2 SMG, the DLT-19 maybe. I want a more dedicated spray weapon. Since my shotgun is so all or nothing, I'm probably going to end up using the spray weapon more. It feels like having a better spray weapon is a bit of like insurance when using this weapon, to where like maybe if you miss a shot, you could still get the kill with the spray, or, you know, if you get not the greatest shot, you can get the kill with the spray. But having the A280, it's like a very mid spray weapon, which I think is good for the game. I think it's balanced, but I think it doesn't complement the Jawa shotgun well. And if I was going to main this, I think I would be, you know, more inclined to use the F11 probably, and then like the IQ A11 marksman rifle or DMR. I think if I was going to main the Jawa, that's what I would probably use. Jawa shotgun, F11, IQ A11 marksman rifle, heals, and then probably shockwaves. Fortnite recently made it to where you can get shockwaves out of the shrines again if you bring in an air sprite. So shockwaves are a little more plentiful on the map and a little bit more easier to get, so you can kind of get by with only single mobility. But it's still just like a stretch, and that's kind of my main knock against this weapon. Is not even necessarily the weapon itself. It is incredible, and this is probably going to be a lot of people's favorite shotgun this season. But because how I want to have the rest of my loadout set up, like I really like having that double mobility, like I said, and I really like having heals, I don't want to just run like the Jawa shotgun and an F11, and I also don't want to run just the Jawa shotgun and the A280. So I feel like very inclined to have the F11 or some sort of dedicated spray, and then also more of a long-range weapon. And it just makes it weird to kind of fit this weapon into my inventory and have it play how I want to play. And that's why I think I would still prefer the ACP shotgun, because it just fits with how I want to play the weapon more. Some other minor tips with this is going to be, I think it's heavily in your favor to start fights with opening damage. This is always the case in Fortnite. Your close range fights are so much safer and so much easier to win if you can start it with like opening AR tags, because you put the opponent on the back foot, you put pressure on them, and you have an automatic HP advantage, so you don't need to do as much damage to the enemy. And that matters a lot when you have an all or nothing shotgun like this, because if you hit a good shot, that's just the end of the fight and the opponent can't play anymore. But that opening damage is going to be essential in saving your life when things don't go well for you. When you hit a 30 damage shot out of this, the fact that you already did 100 damage to them is maybe going to save your life when it comes down to just swapping to your spray weapon for the rest of the fight. And again, that's always been the case, but I feel like it's more extreme with this shotgun. Also, playing around cars, a lot of times I like to just get out of my car, shotgun the opponent, and then get back into the car. And you would think that would work really well with this weapon to kind of account for the fact that it has, you know, an incredible time between shots. You could, you know, use the car to reposition. If you don't hit that grade of damage, that's great. You're not like all in on that fight. But I've found that while it should work, the range on the shotgun means that a lot of times when I'm jumping around my car like this, I often just get not the greatest shots. And I don't know if it's just my aim in that moment or the range, but I feel like the range kind of plays into it. So I think this weapon kind of lends itself well to car fighting, or car fighting kind of makes it a bit safer. But it also means that a lot of times you're not going to get that great of damage out of your shotgun. At least I wasn't. And then also, if you do try to go on somebody and you just full on miss, or you just get like 30 damage, if it is possible for you to reset the fight, I would probably recommend taking that. When I was using it with the A280 and still using double mobility, if I missed my shotgun shot, or like I said, if it was like under 60, I was just swapping to my lightsaber and kind of like sprint jumping to try to get behind the opponent, and then maybe just shockwaving away from there to like reset, or playing the fight from more mid-range until my shotgun was usable again. And I think if you do that well, you could make, you know, just the Jawa and the A280 work, but it's still just like the margins are razor thin, it feels like, when you have those two weapons together. And that's why I think I still prefer the ACP shotgun. It just feels more comfortable to me and how I like to play. But I think the Jawa is, you know, incredibly lethal. And as I said a few times, I think it's going to be a lot of people's favorite shotgun this season. Let me know what you guys think. Oh, also one final thing. I think it's more problematic. Everything I just talked about, I think, is more problematic if you're playing team game modes as well. And I'm mostly playing solos, and I'm feeling kind of the downside of this weapon. If you're playing squads, it's probably even more of a struggle. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys do find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of the Jawa shotgun and what your favorite shotgun is this season. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.